Anytime. Can you all hear me okay? You can just let us know in the chat pod. Good. Glad to hear it. We'll get going in just a couple minutes. Okay. Let's test it again. Can you hear me now? Okay, good. Our newcomers can hear. Very good. Good. Okay. I think, yeah, we have people constantly coming on in, so we'll give everybody just a little bit more time, and then we can get to it. All right. We'll start the minute countdown until we get going. Okay, I think we can go ahead and get started, and anyone else who continues to trickle in can certainly catch up with us. So I would just like to welcome you all to the Click Meeting Live Getting Started webinar. Thank you all so much for participating today. My name is Abby, and I'll be your tour guide today through all of your Click Meeting accounts and really utilizing that the best you can. Also with us today is Peter. He is the product manager for Click Meeting, so he is going to be here to answer any and all questions that you may have. about Click Meeting during this webinar, so you can always just catch him over on the chat pod, and he's going to be keeping track of all of that during our webinar today, and he'll be here for any questions that you might have. Okay, now first, I think an important thing we need to go over before we fully delve into this, all of your account, are the differences that you can expect between Click Meeting and Click Webinar, because these are important to think about whenever you're deciding maybe which service you would like to utilize. So first, Click Meeting is more of a many-to-many platform. Click Meeting really focuses on collaboration and participation, where all participants, presenters, hosts can really collaborate and work together during a meeting. Whereas Click Webinar, the difference comes in as that's more of a one-to-many platform. So let's say this might be utilized more for things like announcements about maybe a deal that's going on, a product demonstration, maybe training videos. So this is really where a presenter really has the rights of speaking and showing video to a larger group of people, because you're going to see some differences also in the number of attendees that you can have within these two products. With Click Meeting, we have the options of Click Meeting 5 or 25. So this means that you can have up to 5 or 25 attendees that could be in your meeting. But with Click Webinar, they range all the way up to 1,000 attendees. So if you've got some events that you need to have larger groups for, Click Webinar may work better for you on that. And another important thing to note about this, though, with a Click Webinar account, you actually have access to both Click Webinar and Click Meeting 25. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you would like Click Webinar, you also do have access to these Click Meeting meetings where you can hold kind of these more collaborative and participative events, as well as the webinars that you'd like to hold as well. So it's just good to keep that in mind whenever you're trying to decide maybe what product's going to work best for you. So we like to get that going first before we delve into all of your account and what you can see in that. So here you're going to see our agenda. These are the things we hope to talk about today, hope to get you feeling comfortable and ready to utilize these features. And we won't take any more than 45 minutes to an hour of your time today, but we want to make sure to get through all of your account and really what you can utilize. So as you see here, we're going to go through the administration panel. So this is actually in your Click Meeting account itself, kind of setting up your meetings and what you can do with that. We've got Meeting Room Insights. Now this is, for your online meeting room, all the features and functions that you're going to see inside of that. We'll hit some more of the more cool and interesting features that we are really proud of course. And then at the end, we will have a question time, because after we go through all of this information, we want to make sure that you have time to talk with Peter and get any questions you might have had during this webinar answered at the end of this. So, all right, I think we have done all the housekeeping. We are certainly ready to dive right on in to your Click Meeting account. So as you all probably know so far, this is your Click Meeting login page. So this is what you'll get to. You'll simply input your login or email address that you selected for your account, put your password in, and you are in, and immediately that brings you to your dashboard. Now your dashboard, as you can see, is just a list of your upcoming or scheduled meeting or webinars. So everything that you've scheduled or have coming up is going to be brought to you right there when you sign in. And that's known as your dashboard. And also within the dashboard, you've got the option to host a meeting or a webinar. Of course, remembering what type of product you do have, Click Meeting or Click Webinar. So this is right on your dashboard, easy click of a button. You've got the option to host a meeting or host a webinar. Now, before we dive in too far, I'm curious to know who all here so far has hosted a meeting or a webinar so far. So I'm going to open a poll for us, and I'm just curious about this before we keep going. So I'm going to open a poll and let you guys vote for just a minute, because I'm just curious to see what you guys have done so far. We'll keep it open for just a little bit. Very nice. I see we're all voting. Just a couple more seconds. Get any last minute votes in. Keep coming in. Okay. All right. I'll close it down in 3, 2, 1. Very nice. Oh, last minute. Very good. I'll end the voting and I'll share the results. Looks like about 81% of us have created a meeting or webinar yet, and about 18% haven't quite. So I hope after this webinar presentation for your account, you can start to feel comfortable to create your first meeting or webinar in your account. So thanks so much, you guys, for providing those votes. That's good to know. So we'll go back to our presentation now. So we're at the dashboard where you can choose to host your meeting or your webinar. And of course, you have the option, once you click one of those, do you want to meet now or do you want to meet later? So if you choose meet now, your meeting room opens immediately and you can immediately start your meeting or webinar. Now, if you choose the other option, of course, meet later, you're going to need to schedule. You're going to need to provide your scheduling details. So you're going to be brought to this page where you're going to provide some information about your meeting. Now, first you see here is your room name. You can give your room a name, and this is what the room that your attendees will see. This is how they'll be able to see your room as. And there beneath that, you see room URL. Now, by default, whatever name that you do give your room, it is added to the end of this room URL. And the room URL is how your meeting is actually found. So you'll see invitations in just a minute when we get there, but this URL is all that's needed to be able to find and access your meeting on the web. So if this URL is given to someone, they can access your meeting no problem. And just in case you don't want your room name as a part of the meeting URL, you can most definitely edit that and change it to be something that you would prefer over that. Now below that, you're going to see room type, because there is two different types of room. And the first I'm going to talk about is the permanent event. Now, permanent event just means all of this setting up and scheduling details that you set up for a specific room, you can just do that one time. So you'll set the settings just as you want them, and then you can simply just hold individual sessions within that permanent event. So you might choose a permanent event if you, let's say, wanted to advertise a specific room URL, because that way the room URL would always be the same. So you're going to always, let's say you could put that on a business card, or just any place that you wanted to advertise this as your specific room for your account, and you can just hold those individual sessions there. Now below that, you see waiting room message. I think as a lot of you probably were in a waiting room today for us before we started the webinar. The waiting room is just a place for people to kind of stay before the meeting room is actually opened. So you can input text here as you see, perhaps like, grab a pencil and paper and maybe a cup of coffee, and we will get going in just a few moments. So this is just something that you can choose to provide for your attendees while they're waiting for you to open the room, if you do choose. Now, as I said, there is that second type, this time-scheduled event. So time-scheduled is a one-time specific meeting, a specific room that you're going to create. That's good for one meeting, of course. So you're going to need to set your event date and your time. And as you see here, it's also important to set your time zone, because you, the organizer, want to set your own personal time zone for the time of your meeting. And this way, whenever the invitations are sent out to your attendees, it is automatically converted to their own specific time. This is just important to make sure everyone is clear on the same page for what time the meeting is going to begin, and they will be able to all get there at the same time. So that's just an important detail, that it is nice to make sure that you double check that and set your own specific time zone when you're scheduling your event. Now, there are also 3 different access types. So you can keep this in mind if there's a specific way that you may want to monitor or maybe add some more security to your event. Now, obviously, the first is free to all. So that is just as it sounds. Anyone can join. All they need is the URL that we talked about earlier, and they can access your meeting therein, no problem. For example, this webinar, free to all. So anyone can join as long as you have the link and ability to get into the room. Now, the second type that you see there is password protected. Now, this password is something that the organizer is going to set. That's up to you, of course. And then this password works for all attendees. And the password is going to be sent in the invitation that is sent to the attendee. And there's also not too much worry about maybe losing the password, because it's already provided in the meeting room link. So, you can always jot it down, but of course, we do have it provided for you in the link, so they can just click that link that's provided in the invitation, and they'll be able to access the meeting that way. Now, the third and, of course, most secure type of entry into a meeting is token protected. Now, these tokens are generated by ClickMeeting, And there is one token associated with each attendee that they can use one time. So of course you can tell by the way it takes to describe it, it's of course very secure. So, and just as the password, the token is provided in the link to the meeting. So again, don't worry about this token getting lost or someone not being able to enter that way. They can simply just enter the meeting via the token in the link. But this is just a really secure way to make sure that the right people that you want to come to your meeting are actually getting in there. So those are some things to think about whenever you're scheduling and setting up your meeting as well. Now, of course, you may want to set some reminders. You've done all this work to get your meeting scheduled. You don't want people to just miss it because they forgot. So you can set up to 3 different reminders here when you're setting up your meeting. So they will automatically be sent to all of your attendees. And so you'll just set them here, and boom, by default, they are sent out. And so hopefully no one will miss your meeting with up to 3 reminders, surely. And now I'll go back here because this is also a pretty neat feature that you guys may want to know about. Beneath there where you see embed this room into your site, if you simply take this code and post it onto your own personal website, that means the meeting will actually be held within your web page. So that's just kind of a nice, incredibly personalized way for you to hold your meeting if you would like. So that's the exact code that you're going to need to do that. Post it on your website, and that is done. So it's just a little thing I also like to point out in case you guys weren't sure what that was when you see that under your reminders. Now next we'll talk about registration. I know many of you probably did register with us today. And that's because when we were setting up the meeting, we enabled registration to on. And you can just register this or set this to on if you want to get some more information about your attendees before they are sent the invitation to your meeting. So you simply set this to on, and as you see here, by default, the first 3 are already enabled and set as required, first name, last name, email address, of course. You see all these extra things here, perhaps if you want some geographical information about your attendees before they get sent the invitation. And if that doesn't do it for you, of course, we have this add custom field. So this means you can add anything, any specific information you hope to get from an attendee that's maybe specific to your meeting or some data you'd like to be able to get before your meeting starts. You simply click Add Custom Field and you can input your own registration information that you would like for them to fill out. So that's a really handy feature as well. Now another part of registration is you can check this box here that you see that says Require My Manual Confirmation. So this just means that you would sign into your Click Meeting account and would monitor or view who all so far has registered for your event. And then you could say, let's approve each registration. And maybe let's say this could be important if you're holding a large webinar and someone from your competition or something was trying to get into your event and they've registered. You can simply just monitor and keep track who is actually registering for your meeting and maybe decline it if there's not somebody you exactly want in there, or of course approve whoever has registered, and they will be sent the invitation link at that time. And one more thing on the registration, you can choose to redirect your registrants. So let's say maybe your web page has a thank you page already set up. So if your attendees are gracious enough to fill out all of your registration information, you could just input the URL to, let's say, maybe a thank you page. So once they fill out their registration information, they will automatically be redirected to this page that you input there. So those are just some things to keep in mind about all the types of information or things that you can set while you're setting up your meeting. Now, of course, you've done all this work. You've set all this up. You, of course, need some people to come to your meeting. So this is when you can choose to invite participants or presenters. So you'll simply select one of these options, whichever works for you. And then you're going to see these 3 different options here for how you can actually invite people into your meeting. Now, the first is going to be copy and paste. Now, this is just as it sounds. Let's say you've got maybe a document full of names and email addresses. You could simply just copy those email addresses that you want to invite and paste them right in, and our system will send them the invitations just like that. The second option from Address Book. Now, the Address Book is actually the contacts that you may have saved within your Click Meeting account. So if you added contacts into your account, if you clicked from Address Book here, you would just be displayed with the list of contacts you have saved, and you could select from that way. Now, this third way is from registration. So what we were just talking about with registration and getting that information from your attendees, if you click that option here, you're going to be presented with a list of all of your past meetings and their registrations. And so you can kind of maybe pick and choose or select attendees from that past registrations that they filled out. So you've got some various options for how you want people to attend your meeting. And so here you've got people to come, and now maybe it's time to think about rebranding. It's time to maybe think about how your room is actually going to look during your meeting. So with Click Meeting, it is completely customizable, it's completely able to be rebranded so it really fits the look, let's say, of your company. If you've got a corporate look, you've got colors that are specific to your company, you can just with clicking these elements can change the look of the meeting completely. Another important feature that is really unique to Click Meeting is Click Meeting logo that you're going to see on the top left of your screen here. You can actually remove that and then put your own company logo. So this is completely customizable and you can personalize this for your brand. So talking about all that does again get me curious to see who actually might utilize this rebranding option. So I'm going to open up another poll for us, and because I'm just of course curious to know who has done this. So let me open that poll. Maybe you would all be so kind to give me some votes. I'll leave it open for just a bit longer, then we'll be able to share the results with you guys. All right, we've got many people voting. A few more, then I'll start our countdown. All right, I'll close it down in 3, 2, 1. Okay, very good. Thanks so much, you guys. Looks like we're about, I'll share that with you guys, about 76%, almost 77 would rebrand their meeting room, 23 not so much. So it's just a cool option if this would work for you and your company to make this really look personal for you guys. So thanks a lot for humoring me and casting your votes in that poll. So we'll get back. So we just talked about the ways that you can specifically rebrand your meeting room that may fit your standards. But if you don't want to get into specifics of all that and change it all specifically, we do offer 10 pre-designed meeting room skins. So you can choose through these 10, let's say, different types of themes that we have, and with a simple click of a button, your meeting room is completely rebranded just to this skin. So it makes it look a little bit more interesting, maybe a little bit more professional, maybe than just the generic room that's set up. So that's just an easier option if you do want to change the look of the room, but don't want to manually go through each element. You can simply just click one of our 10 skins and it's done, and your meeting room looks pretty cool. So that's another option if you want to think about rebranding your room as well. So you've done all this work, as I've said. You've invited people, you've changed the look of your room. Now you may be curious about how the meeting went. You want to know some information about your meeting after how it went. So that is available through statistics. Now the statistics for your meeting are available directly after the meeting, and you can get to statistics within your Click Meeting account. There on the toolbar, you'll click statistics and you're going to be brought to this listing of all of your past meetings. So you can simply choose whatever meeting you would like to view some information about. And so here it's a bit small, but you can see View Details. So if you click View Details, you're going to be brought to some meeting summary information. And before I show you all that, because of course we've got some more information about it, I do want to draw your attention to this option here that says Generate PDF. So that means you don't have to view all the statistics online in your account. You can always generate a PDF that you can utilize offline that contains all this information. And so I'll get into all the things that are going to be available within your statistics. And first we'll go to the meeting summary. So meeting summary is the first option you're going to see, and that is just going to give you some information about your maximum visitors during the meeting, maybe how many people you had in the waiting room before it began, the average attendance at time, geographical information that you see here, and also what you see here, this pie chart that's got these ratings. At the end of each meeting or webinar, your attendees have the option to rate your meeting, say how they think it went. And that'll go, of course, in this pie chart, but also they have the option to give some written comments, and those comments are also going to be provided in your statistics information. So you'll be able to view those in statistics, as well as all those polls we've been creating, and you guys have been voting on for me. All the results of polls specifically will be provided in your statistics And again, you can reference all of this in your PDF if you choose to download it, or you can simply view it online at any time, of course. And now a second part of statistics, which is also really important, is the attendee summary. Now this is the second part of statistics. So if you click on attendee summary within your statistics part of your account, you also have the attendee summary. So that's going to first bring up maybe a listing of all the attendees that were in your meeting. And then if you want some specific information about that attendee, you'll simply click on their name and you're going to be brought to their attendee detail summary. And so you'll see how long they were in the meeting, maybe the exact times of when they joined. You've got the geographical information based on Google Maps. So you've got a map point exactly where they logged into your meeting from. And as well as especially how this specific person maybe voted in a poll. So it's all organized specifically for this attendee, and this would be provided, of course, in the PDF summary. But another important thing about the attendee summary, you can actually export, your attendee list into a CSV file. So this maybe you could utilize later in Excel or things like that. So not only can you generate the entire statistics option in PDF, your attendee information can be exported into a CSV file. So you've got lots of options for how you can view this information and how you can utilize it offline as well. So this is all available within all ClickMeeting accounts. We like to let you guys know really what we're keeping track of and what you can find in your statistics. Okay, now next is statistics. Within your account, you're going to see storage. Now storage is a really important part because obviously you're probably going to want to utilize some documents during your meeting. And so if you go to storage, we really recommend that you upload before your meeting any documents or presentations, let's say, that you want to utilize during your meeting. Now you can simply upload your files here within your storage. They're going to be uploaded and then they're going to be converted. Because as you see, we support all types of files. You are not limited by your file type at all. Because what happens is you upload it into ClickMeeting and then we actually convert it. So it's converted regardless of its file type, to a specific file type that works best within ClickMeeting. So that way you can just kind of rest assured that your document is going to be able to work within your meeting and it's going to look its best. So you are not limited by your file types. We really just recommend you go ahead and upload it to storage first and then open it during your meeting. And that just cuts down on any, let's say, a download and conversion times that you may not want to experience during a meeting. You know, you don't want to waste that time on that. So we really recommend uploading your documents to storage and then opening them during your meetings. And remember, you are not limited by file types. We support them all, so please go ahead and upload them. Now the second type of storage is going to be your recording. Now, you can record any meeting and webinar, and I'll show you the exact button whenever we get to the online meeting room. But for example, of course, this webinar is being recorded today, and we can email it to all of you who participate today in case you want to reference it in the future. But so you can record any meeting or webinar, and it's going to be stored here in storage. So you're going to see your list of recordings here. And also, it's important to take note here what you see kind of this status bar. Because depending on the type of account you have a specific amount of recording storage available. So you'll see here maybe you're getting close to your limit. There's a really easy way to get around that because this storage is actually renewable. You can choose to download your file, and this recording will be downloadable in the MP4 file format. So you could download that and let's say upload it to YouTube. So once you've downloaded it, you can simply delete it and you're going to get some of that storage back. So it's just important to keep in mind there may be a set limit of your storage, but you can always get that back by simply downloading it and then deleting it. And now another cool feature that I want to talk about next is what's going to happen when you click edit here. So let's say you've got a webinar that was an hour long, but there were some lags. Maybe there were some delays in that meeting. So if you click edit, you're going to be brought to this editing page where you can actually trim the recording video right within ClickMeeting. So this is a pretty cool feature. So you can just cut out any specific parts of your webinar, maybe that there was some downtime, there wasn't much going on. So simply trim that, and then you can go ahead and download it. And so that way, whatever you choose to share this recording, maybe on YouTube or something, or on your website, you're really showing the best part of your webinars and you're getting rid of the stuff that maybe is not so necessary. So as you can see, whenever we get to a feature that I really like, I like a poll. So I'm going to go ahead and open one more poll for you guys about what you think about the trimming feature and if this is something you think you guys might utilize. So again, I await your votes very excitedly. So I'll give you a few seconds to get voting. Most of us have done pretty good so far. All right, I'll start my countdown. Get any last votes in 3, 2, 1. Very good. End the voting. Share the results. Okay, we're good, pretty good. Almost 79% have used this or maybe will use this in the future. That 21%, excuse me, back that up. That's opposite. 21% yes, have or would use it. 78% have not yet. So I hope after we bring this to your attention and let you guys know that it's available, you will get to trimming. So we just like to let you know. And again, thank you so much for taking a part in my poll. I just love those. Okay, we're back to our recording. We just learned all about my favorite editing feature. Now we're getting into your account settings. And I will go ahead and take a little pause before we get into there just to see if you have any questions so far for Peter that maybe you haven't had a chance to ask yet. So I'm gonna take a little break here, hand it over to Peter, see if you guys have any questions before we get into your account. All right, thanks a lot, Peter. And we're back. Of course, no fear, we will have plenty of times for more questions throughout the rest of the webinar. So we will definitely get all of those questions answered for you, so don't worry about that. So we are making our way into account settings. Now these are just kind of your personal or company details that you can provide in your Click Meeting account. So first, if you see here, you can of course upload a video. This can be a personal video, photo, a photo of you, the organizer, the account holder, or of course a company photo. So this is obviously up to you. This can just be an identifier for your attendees. And here we're going to see your personal details. So I might zoom in on this a little bit so you guys can see that a little bit more clear. And so what you see here, obviously all of the average account details that you would provide. But what I first want to point out that's really unique to Click Meeting that we're pretty proud of is this personal page, personal website. Now, each account holder has this personal page set aside for them, and you can access it simply by your Click Meeting or Click Webinar login .clickmeeting or clickwebinar.com. So this is where that photo you provided in the previous slide and some of these fields that you may choose, and you can choose here to publish them on your personal page. This is where these details are going to be provided, and they can be accessed on your page. So you could, let's say, advertise your page, and people can see maybe some of your upcoming events, some meetings that you're going to be hosting, and just get to know a little bit more about maybe your company or the account holder. So this is really, really unique to Click Meeting, and this is just another way for you to be able to connect with your attendees and literally get them some more information about you. Now, another important thing I want to bring up about this personal details page is first name and last name. Now, the first name and last name is going to be present in the attendee list pod, which we'll see in just a minute when we make our way into your online meeting room. This is the name of the organizer that's going to be shown. So this is important, let's say, if you have a company account and you've got several people that are hosting or organizing events within that account. So let's say someone different is going to host a meeting than did last time. You just want to make sure to go into your account settings and change the first and last name of whomever it is this time that's going to be in the attendee list pod. That's just a little quirk that I like to bring up so you guys know about it. Just update the first and last name for the organizer. And the rest of this, of course, is just however the information that you want to provide about yourself or your company that you can then choose to publish on this personal page. Now, you have made it all through setting up your meetings, setting up your, let's say, personal page and giving some details, and we're going to dive on into your online meeting room. So this is also normally where we put on the brakes for just a minute to make sure there's no more questions before we get on there. So anything maybe you want to clear up about setting up your meetings or some of your account settings, because we're going to get all into the meeting room in just a minute and talk about all the pods and everything you can do within the meeting room itself. So I'll stop for just a minute and see if you have any questions for Peter again about the setting up a meeting or scheduling it, and then we'll come right back on and we will get going for the online meeting room. So I will be right back and hand it off to Peter.
I'm sorry, I had my mic muted. Especially for Victoria, here I am, second person. Hello. Yeah, I noticed that. Thank you, Sandy. Good to hear. Okay, guys, we're still going to have question time at the end of our webinar. So if you don't have, sure you do. Sure you do, Bill. If you don't have any questions about Click Meeting right now, we can get back to them at the end.
All right. I'm glad it seems that you guys are clear on setting up your meetings. So as promised, we will dive right on into your online meeting room. So here you're going to see by default the presenter's view. So you all as attendees probably see that it looks a bit different than what you're seeing now, because as a presenter, you do have some different views than your attendees. So by default, your room is set up with these 4 pods. We've got the share pod, we've got the camera and voice pod, attendee list pod, and the chat pod. And this is kind of the default layout that's going to that's going to be available whenever you first open your meeting, let's say. Now, you have lots of options. Just like rebranding it, you've got tons of options for how you want this room to look and change the layout of it. So here to the right, you see these are kind of like some preset, let's say, meeting types. Maybe what's going to be the most important part of your meeting. For us, for example, of course, it's the presentation. Want to make sure you guys can see everything clearly. It's the most dominant pod for this webinar. But you can change with the click of one of these buttons, and I'll show you guys how it looks and how quick and easy it is by simply clicking on this window. Of course, I have presentation enabled here, but let's say mini chat. Let's say chat is the most important part of your meeting, for example. You might click that. Let's say all windows. That's that kind of the default I showed you earlier. We, of course, have video chat. Let's say, as you see here, it's the most dominant. But we will go back to presentation now, and you can see that this is the most important or dominant pod for us in this time. Now to the left, you're going to see here are just the listings of all of the pods. So let's say, for example, you don't necessarily want to utilize the chat pod. By simply clicking on the chat pod button, that will go away and not be available for everyone. I won't do that now because maybe it'll scare us and get rid of us. But let's say you don't want the audio video pod. That's not what it's about. I have disappeared now. I'll come back. You just simply click on the button of a pod, and that's going to just take it away from the room so you can really focus on what's going to be the most important part of your meeting. So these are just some quick and easy ways to change the layout and look of your room while you're actually in the room itself. So now that you know about that, let's go around and talk about each of these pods and kind of the things that you can do within those. So first, of course, is the camera and voice pod. Now this is where you're going to be able to monitor and control your own audio and video. So simply with the click of these buttons here that you see below the screen, you can choose to enable or disable your own audio and video. You would simply click on these buttons, and if you choose to disappear and take your video off for a moment, you'd simply click on that audio button here. Now there's also some different ways you can connect your audio into the meeting. Now the first, and you can make those choices whenever you click on the audio button here. Now the first, you could choose to use via Skype, provide your audio via Skype. You could choose to dial in via a phone bridge, or of course you can just use the built-in mic in your computer. So you do have those options there. Now additionally, if you want to be able to control, let's say, the audio and video for your attendees or your participants, that's going to really be able to happen here. This is the magic button, we'll say. Hopefully I didn't cover it up. Is the settings wheel or the gear icon, however you want to call it. But this is located in each pod, and it kind of holds the key for all of the functions that are available within that specific pod. So let's say you've got a rowdy group of attendees that all have voice options. They're all streaming their audio and it gets too much and you just want to mute them. You would simply click on this settings wheel and you've got the option to mute all participants. So there really are a lot of options within the settings wheel. So I encourage you all to get into maybe a test meeting and just click on this settings wheel and see all the different options that you do have within each settings wheel, because it's a lot. And it gives you a lot of control for each pod and what maybe you want your participants to see, not see, maybe have voice, maybe give them the video privileges. So these are things that you're really going to be able to utilize through this settings wheel here. So that's our camera and voice pod. Now next is our attendee list pod. And as you can probably see with our meeting, that this has been disabled. We took it away because we didn't want to waste valuable chat pod. That's really important for Peter to be able to see all of you guys and you see that. So we didn't necessarily want to waste space on the attendee details, attendee pod, because we don't make more room for chat. But the attendee list pod is simply a listing of all presenters in the room and of course all participants. And so that will be a listing there. And then if you choose to click on the specific name of one of those attendees, that is where you have the options to truly personalize or give, take away. You have all types of options for this specific attendee. So let's say Mark here, you want to make a presenter. So if you make someone a presenter, then they have all the same rights as you. They can change layouts, they can have some control. You can do that right during the meeting. You can give them voice if you have previously maybe muted them. You can start a chat, and we'll go over the chat pod very soon. And there's also various privileges and options you have associated with this contact. So if you choose to just click on anybody's name within your attendee list pod, you've got these options. You can see there's more details, geographical information. So this is all simply by clicking on their name in the pod, and there you see it all. And of course, my favorite magical icon, the settings wheel, this has all the options you will ever need for this pod. So I do recommend checking that out and seeing what all you can control with that. Now here we've made it into the chat pod. Now the chat pod, of course, has a lot of important features that I do want to draw to your attention just so you know that they are available. Now the first is chat moderation. Now chat moderation just is good in case you don't want it to be a free-for-all for providing messages into your room that shows up in your chat pod. So you can enable chat moderation, of course, through the settings wheel. And if you choose to enable this, that just means if someone types a message that they want to put into the chat pod in the room, you, the organizer or presenter, are going to be brought up with those messages first. And you have several options. First, you can choose to edit it. Maybe it's a pretty good message, but there's something in there not quite right. You can simply edit what that person wrote and then approve it, and then it will be shown to the rest of the room. You have the option to just approve it. It looks good. You can put it right into the pod and everyone will see it. Or if it's completely outlandish, no way you're letting that through, you could just deny it and no one's going to see that. So it's just nice to keep some control and monitor the chat pod and maybe not let it get too out of hand. So that, of course, you can set is our chat moderation. Now the second, we have made it to yet another feature that makes me very happy and I like to talk about is chat translation. Now this is important, let's say if you've got attendees from around the world and you want them to be able to utilize the chat and be able to see what people are typing, but also be able to contribute themselves. So this chat translation, of course, is powered by Google Chat, Translate, and you can select from their over 50 languages that they have set. So each attendee can set the language that works best for them. Let's say you've got someone in France, and so they want to receive all messages from the chat pod into French. So they will automatically be translated for that specific attendee in French. Then they can choose to type out a chat message, and it will be typed in French for that person, and then automatically translated into each individual set language. So this is really interesting if you're going to be holding these, worldwide webinars, let's say, with attendees from all over. So this is a feature, again, I really like. So I think you're all used to the game now that if I like something, I want to know what you guys think. So we'll open one last poll to see how you guys feel about this chat translation feature. I'll open that up and wait for some votes. I do appreciate all of you humoring me and voting for all of this. All right, we've got some votes. We've got some more options here to choose from. So we'll see how it looks. A couple more seconds. Very nice. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Very nice. End of voting. I'll share the results with you guys. So we are pretty much split all between from definitely, maybe, probably not. So this is just depends, of course, on your specific, meetings and what types of events you're going to hold. But we'd like, again, to let you know that it is available, and this is something that could come in handy for your attendees if you're holding this type of meeting. So thanks a lot, you guys. Okay, we've talked about our chat pod. There's one more feature left within the chat pod that I want to talk about, and that's private discussion. Now, it's important to note that attendees cannot hold a private chat discussion amongst themselves. Only you, the organizer or presenter, can hold a private discussion, and only you can start a private discussion with one of your attendees. So let's say you may want to check up on somebody and make sure they're doing okay. You would simply select their name from the attendee list pod that we went over earlier, select their name, and there you have the option for start discussion. So you'll start a discussion with them, see how they're doing, check up on them, and that can just be private, separate from the main meeting room chat. So that's another important part of the chat pod that I like to bring up so you guys all know that it's available. And of course, we've made our way to the share pod. The share pod is very important, of course, during your meeting, and it's got various features that we're going to go over. Now the first, as you see here, is the presentation option. That's what we're in now. So you simply would click on this option here, And then you're going to be brought up with a page that comes up where you can choose from your list of documents that you've already uploaded into storage in your Click Meeting account like we talked about earlier. So you can just open your PowerPoint, let's say, straight from that there, and it will open fully in this SharePod. And so, of course, as I said, all types of files are available, so don't worry about that. And of course, you can choose to upload maybe an impromptu document or file into this room. Whenever you click this presentation option here, you have the option for upload file. So it would go through the quick upload and conversion process, but that is going to happen, and you could do that straight within the meeting if you do choose. Now, the second you see here is Whiteboard. And this is just as it sounds. It's everybody's old favorite standby collaborative tool in the offices. So you can enable this, and I will do so in a minute to give us a minute of some free, clean fun we can have with the whiteboard. But this is just, of course, as it sounds, is you can collaborate, kind of brainstorm on a whiteboard itself. So I'm going to go ahead and open us a whiteboard so we can just take a look at it and see how it works. So you all are free to collaborate. I welcome you, maybe play a nice game of tic-tac-toe, something just to see how it goes. There's lots of options you have here. You can include text. You can add an image. We have a Flickr integration that you could utilize. Let's say you want to bring a photo up and kind of, work on it there. So you've got those options. I see we've got a nice game of tic-tac-toe going. I hope someone can make a good win. So yeah, this is just interesting to play around with, see how it works best for you and for your meeting. So looks like we have a winner in tic-tac-toe, so I'll go ahead and end the fun now. Thanks so much, guys, for participating. That really is a fun feature, so I'll go ahead and close that for us, get back to the presentation. Now, after the whiteboard, we've got desktop sharing. Now, desktop sharing also does require the Java plugin, and we do recommend a really strong, stable bandwidth for this feature to really work at its best. But desktop sharing just means you can share your desktop with others. We even have the option of desktop control. So someone could even take control of your desktop. Let's say they need to get some real hands-on experience working on something within your desktop. So you can share that and someone else can take control. So that's a really neat feature that you may want to utilize during your meeting. Next to that, you're going to see our YouTube option. If you click this option, immediately a YouTube search dialog box will come up. You can conduct your search for a specific video right there, and it's going to open and play right here in the SharePod. That's just pretty easy way to find videos directly within your meeting in the SharePod. The ever important polls that you all saw here that we've been doing during the entirety of this webinar. When you click on this button, you've got the option to open a poll that maybe you already held, or you've also got the option for to create a new one. So if you want to create a poll, maybe ahead of time before your meeting starts, you'd click on this option here and create your poll there. And finally, the last option within your SharePod is the browser. Now this just means if you click this option, you can open a browser directly in the SharePod to maybe search the web or Google something or visit a specific website right within the SharePod during your meeting. So there are lots of options here within your SharePod, many features that I hope you can investigate. Please don't neglect my wonderful settings wheel, the favorite. Check it out and see what all you can control with this SharePod, of course. Now here is just the presenter's view of the whiteboard. I know we played with it all, and you guys, the attendees, gave me some good feedback there. But this is just important for you, the presenter. If you do choose to open up the whiteboard, you would just click this collaborate button, and that would be the option there to let everyone else collaborate with you on the whiteboard. And then here is also the presenter's view for polls and surveys. So you all have been doing them as attendees, but me as a presenter, this is when I'm ending the voting and saving it and giving you guys the countdown. You can then choose to share. You would choose to share them there, share the results. And also to the right here, you see detailed results. So if you click on this, just you, the presenter, can specifically see the details for how each person did vote. So you can see the name, email address of how the person voted. So it's more specific, of course, for you, the presenter, because you may need that information. And then, of course, closing the poll. So I can't believe it, but you guys have made it all the way through the meeting room, and we are back to question time, because I know there may be a lot of questions associated with the meeting room itself and things you can do within the pod. So we're going to take one more break to let Peter come on, answer any and all questions you guys have, and we'll continue on and round out this presentation. So we'll be right back.
All right, everybody, we are back. You got all the questions answered, made it all the way through. So, of course, if you ever do need to get in contact with us, after this webinar is over, we are not gone. We always want to be able to assist you with anything you may have. So here are the various ways you can get in touch with our customer support. You can always give us a call here. We're available 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can give us a call, and we'll be happy to answer Monday through Friday, of course. Here's our email. Always please shoot us an email. We will get back with you as soon as possible so we can help you out with any inquiry or any kind of concern you might have. We also have a live chat option where you can speak with a customer support specialist via live chat. You simply go to clickmeeting.com, navigate to the Learning Center there, and then to the right you're going to see Start Chat Now. So it's very simple. You can get on there and be able to get any of your questions answered that you might need concerning your Click Meeting account or any meeting that you may be running. So definitely recommend getting in touch. Please don't hesitate. We are always here and happy to help, of course. Now, we do have a special offer that we'd like to offer you guys. Just as a thank you for participating today, taking the time out of your busy schedules to meet with us and really learn how to make the most of your Click Meeting account. So we have a special 30% off we'd like to offer you guys. It's good for a lifetime if you choose to upgrade your account. So if you simply go to this clickmeeting.com/go, enter the code you see there, exclusive with the one. Whenever you choose to upgrade, you could get a 30% off discount of whatever plan that you do choose, and that is going to be good for life. So again, we really appreciate you guys doing this, and so we just like to offer you a little special offer for taking the time out of your day. And of course, here's some contact details for our sales representatives. So let's say you've got some specific questions about the packages that are available, or maybe your needs don't quite fit specifically within that package. And so you can always contact our sales representatives here. They'll be happy to talk about any specifics with you or find a way to make ClickMeeting work best for you and your organization. So, of course, those are always available. And again, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. We're so happy to have you all here. We're going to stay around for just a couple more minutes to get any questions answered. But I hope you enjoyed the ClickMeeting webinar today, and I hope you got your questions answered and you feel more comfortable. So, again, thanks so much, you guys, and enjoy creating your meetings with ClickMeeting. Have a good day, everybody.